Hey, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a subscriber. I really appreciate it. So many of my videos, you may have been fooled that I am a liberal. And yes, I do swing towards liberal ideas because I believe that when everyone is taken care of and everything is good, that life just runs smoother in general. So I love the concept of equality until liberal becomes illogical. And that's what I like to say. I'm not liberal, I'm logical. And that's what today's story is about. I was watching the news, the local news this morning. We live in Northern California. I've been here about 5 years. Now, you have to understand that Northern California, especially the little town I live in, is one of the last footholds for the old school hippies. And my neighbor once told me, who's a very smart woman and very politically sensitive. She said, you know what, Riddle? People are so liberal here, they will beat the liberal out of you. So imagine living somewhere that people were so overtly liberal that it made you more conservative. And I think you can understand this. And this is what drives me crazy about my Republican friends right now, because, I've had relationships with these people and disagreed with them on certain things now for decades. But in their hearts, they're good people and they are moral people. And that's why this whole Trump thing has really trumped me, because, these were people I respected before. And now they're experiencing this cognitive dissonance, which is basically when you know something's wrong, but you do it anyways. When you know like something is a lie, yet you close off all logic to that and refuse to identify it as that because it is in conflict with what you want. That's what I understand the basics of cognitive dissonance to be. So back to the news story. The story was about this local beach, and right now during the pandemic, they've had to close close the gates and close the beaches so people don't do stupid things and wind up infecting each other. And so many people were climbing over the gate that the county decided in Monterey County that they had to reopen the gate so that someone was not injured and sued the county. Let me say this again. They reopened the gate that was closed because legally right now, the beaches, parks, everything are closed and you're not supposed to be going out. But because people were climbing over the gate, they are going to open the gate so that somebody doesn't hurt themselves and sue the county. Okay, people. This is a really simple example of why people are so entitled and people are so fucked up right now. Any good judge, if you took this case to a court, which it shouldn't even get that far because it wastes the tax dollars' money, would look at this and not only give the person the $1,000 fine for leaving the house, but also give them an additional fine for taking up the time and energy and make them pay all the court costs. But only in this country, only in this part of the country, would the criminal be enabled and society have to bend to the literal needs of the people who are doing what they're not supposed to do in the first place. Are you getting me? So they're going to open the fence so people can do what they want to do, what they're not supposed to be doing legally. So then they cannot sue the city in a manner that they shouldn't have the rights or ability to have a lawsuit anyways. But think about the kind of person that has that much ignorance and that much entitlement that they would feel privileged to sue because they were injured for doing something that they shouldn't have been doing in the first place, that was illegal, in a time and a place that they shouldn't have been doing it. This is literally a sickness that only exists because America has allowed it to. America has embraced this type of behavior, this type of law, this type of softness. Imagine if this bullshit was going down in China, in Russia, about anywhere else, really. They might get away with it in France. I don't know. But you get the idea. So I just wanted to make this video to illustrate my frustration about this literal bullshit, and to explain to you that, this channel, it's not about being liberal, it's about being logical. So I want you to think about that. And if you see people doing something wrong, obviously wrong, here's another thing that's happened. Society's become so fear-mongering. And listen, I know there's crazy people out there you don't want to mess with because you don't know who has a gun now, and people don't have any common sense. But if you're in a safe dynamic and someone is blatantly doing something wrong, we have to stand up against this ignorance and tell them that they're doing something wrong. Because when we do not do this, it's basically in their simple minds reinforcing that what they're doing is okay and they can get away with it. Recently, I was working with a realtor. Really nice guy, very professional, really went out of the way to do his job. But when we were transacting this piece of real estate, closing on this piece of real estate, we had some issues, and instead of him bucking up and defending us and being strong against what the other party was doing, which was really not exactly legal contractually, he totally wimped out. And in his mind, it's because he's a small town realtor, and we were transacting this business deal in a smaller town, little town I grew up in. And he's afraid that, if you rock the boat in a small town, then you get the stigma, and then other realtors don't want to work with you. I say it's bullshit. I would rather be respected than liked. So then I gave him the opportunity to represent a friend of mine. Now, my friend doesn't have a lot of money, and he would have been a first-time buyer. We explained to him in detail that my friend, he's got just enough money to maybe get in the game. And so he didn't have any room for failure. And so that being said, it came down to closing on this property, and there was supposed to be this inspection. And when they went to inspect the place, it had fallen out of escrow before several times, so there was already this big question mark about why it kept falling out of escrow. But there were such blatant problems with the house. Like literally there was water coming down from the light fixture in the middle of a living room, overspilling in a bucket. Now you're telling me that the realtor, not my realtor, but the realtor who was selling the house, didn't know about this? Because there's these things called disclosures, and they're supposed to put in those disclosures every time there's an offer, a new offer that's been accepted, what was previously discovered that was wrong with the property. And they said there was nothing. So my friend at this point had already invested $600 in this inspection, and there were so many things wrong that should have obviously been put in those disclosures, because if he knew that, he probably wouldn't have wasted his $600 on this inspection that he was just going to lose. And we brought this to the attention of the realtor, And the realtor he literally just put his tail in between his legs and refused to confront the other realtor who obviously was practicing dishonest business practices. The board of realtors should have been contacted. The other realtors broker should have been contacted. But that's the way I do things. I believe that when people aren't, and this, oh, by the way, and this realtor has a reputation for doing this kind of shit. And why? Because my realtor is too weak to call this guy out on it and make him take responsibility for his illegal business practices. And so what do you think the realtor who didn't disclose all of these things that were done with the property that cost my friend $600 and a bunch of time, what do you think he's doing with his other property next week and the week after this and the week after that? How many hundreds and thousands of dollars do you think he's costing people? Because every time he does something illegal, nobody makes him take responsibility for it. And there's a cost. There is a quantitative cost to society when we do not take responsibility ourselves or make others take responsibility for their actions. It's just like shoplifting. Now, I understand that people are sometimes desperate and they have to steal. But I think that's a very rare case here in America, that people get to that level of poverty. May be different these days, might be getting there, but let's talk about that in a future video. But people don't understand that shoplifting, nobody's getting anything for free when you steal something, because all the corporations do is roll that cost into the cost of your merchandise the next year. So when we steal, the price is still coming back to us, and it's coming back to us as a society. Okay, I've railed off my original subject. I just wanted to share all that with you. So if you see blatant, illogical stuff like this going on out there, stand up against it, put a voice behind it, call people out on stuff, because really, a society is supposed to work together for the good of everyone. And I know that everyone's needs can't be met. And I know there's always going to be a fringe. And there's always going to be kooks like these conspiracy theory people. But I think we can figure a lot of this out and at least reach a 70, 80, 85% sanity ratio. Okay, I want you to take care of yourselves and take care of each other, because I believe how we treat each other on the streets, that's our ultimate reality.